Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Professor Hall. And if you are in my class, you know that we are doing some mini lectures about figures from the Harlem Renaissance, in addition to the authors whose works we are reading. If you're not in my class, you should be able to click into my YouTube channel and see the whole list of videos for the Harlem Renaissance, and I hope you enjoy them. So let's get started. We are oh my goodness. These are mini lectures where I'm just giving you a little taste of this person's life and some of their work. And this man did a whole lot. So let's get into it. Brief biography. Robeson was born in 1898 in Princeton, New Jersey, to a large family. Really marked by tragedy, and you can definitely, these are meant to be a taste for you to get interested in somebody and then maybe go read more about them. But the constraints of Jim Crow in the North even really affected his family quite a bit. And he was inspired by his father, who was a minister, to overcome these obstacles and ended up graduating top of his class from Rutgers College. He later obtained a law degree from Columbia University. And while in college, he also achieved All-American status as a college football player. With really, in my opinion, a lack of protective headgear right here. So he had a remarkable talent also as a bass baritone singer. This is somebody who did not just do one thing. He was initially known as an athlete, and then he kind of fell in love with music, and he eventually became a famed actor on both stage and screen. And yet, he was barred from most restaurants near the theaters where he performed. So, people think a lot of times that the Jim Crow rules and laws were only in effect in the South. In the North, it was more, many times they were unwritten rules. Segregation was not necessarily legal in terms of having a set of laws that enforced it, but it certainly was happening. And that is something that he had to overcome. Here's a picture of him in a stage play. So between 1925 and 1961, Robeson recorded and released over 276 songs. He had these songs, many of which were older. He removed the N-word out of many of them. He took out stereotypical dialect, so trying to create, better music for his generation and people that could that he felt proud of. His repertoire was very eclectic. He had some Americana songs, some popular standards at the time. He had classical songs, European folk songs, political songs, poetry, spoken word from plays, and was particularly drawn to spirituals, and really, and this cannot be stressed enough, really helped bring them back into popularity, which influenced other jazz and blues musicians of the time. During the Spanish Civil War and World War II, he became an advocate for displaced people, and he spoke out against fascism. And this activism then, unfortunately, made him a target during the McCarthy era. So during McCarthyism, people were being brought forward before Congress and accused of being communists, and he had some answers for McCarthy about that, and basically said, I'm not for communism, I'm against fascism, and kind of implied that the McCarthy hearings were fascist, which he was not wrong. So we're going to take a moment to hear him singing. I'm just going to play a little clip of this song, and then you'll also have a clip of Robeson in his later years talking about some of his political beliefs and some of the activism that he's doing.
There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man that I'd like to be. What does he care if the world's got troubles? What
Okay, so really, one of his most famous songs, and probably the one he's known best for today, Old Man River from the show Showboat, which was Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein. So now we will hear him a little bit later, kind of talking about his beliefs and his activism. So this is from 1960. It's from a show called Spotlight on ABC. And I do want to note that they are using some terms that we might not use today. But again, it's from 1960. So let's take a listen.
How is it that the American Negro, who for so long has been a second-class citizen in the United States,
still is? I'm sorry.
Well, how is it that he's contributed so much to American culture?
Well,
Music, dance, everything you can think of.
well, I have to be very modest about that. I would say certainly as we look at the African peoples in Nigeria, for example, I just got a wonderful invitation to go to Nigeria to be present at the installation at the Governor General Ezekwe, an old friend, who will now and I had to cable him. I'm in Australia. I certainly would like to be with you, but I'm out here with some good folks. But I'll get to Nigeria later.
Mr. Robeson, do you feel that Africa is to some extent an affinity for it, a home, or do you still feel America is essentially your home? How do you feel?
Well, let me come. Yeah, I'll come to that in just a second. But to come back to it, so I would say the Africans and the American Negroes have turned out to be an extraordinarily gifted people. The great tragedy is that by not making us full-class citizens as yet in America, they may be losing, I don't know how much yet. And to come back, I would say that unquestionably, I am an American, born there. My father slaved there. Upon the backs of my people was developed the primary wealth of America, the primary wealth. You have to have accumulated wealth to start, to build. You did it another way here in Australia. You had to build your accumulated wealth too. You just came and took it. You know what I mean? And that's what they did in most of the countries. That's what you Europeans did. You just took it. We got to catch up with you a little bit. And so in America. So there's a lot of America that belongs to me yet. You understand? But just like a Scottish American is proud of being from Scotland, I'm proud for being African. Now, in our school books, they tried to tell me that all Africans were savages till I got to London and found most of the Africans I knew were going to Oxford and Cambridge and doing very well, and learned their culture. And even once somebody had the temerity, after one had conquered the Chinese people and imposed upon them the opium trade and everything else, to suggest that they were a backward people, just the people who had been civilized so long over the rest of you folks didn't make any sense at all. So somewhere, it was wonderful to find about the colored peoples of the world that they were very advanced. So I would say today that I'm an American who is infinitely prouder to be of African descent, no question about it. No question about it.
And the video goes on from there, and you can definitely look that up and look him up, because I think that these are really amazing points that he's making about colonization, African American rights, and the place of African Americans in American history that were not being made in 1960. They're being made now in some places, and in other places even now not. So definitely an inspirational figure who got his start in this Harlem Renaissance on stage and had an amazing career through his work in music and later in activism. Paul Robeson. Definitely go read more about him, and I can't wait to see you guys next week. Thanks.